All right, Mr. Chairman, if you're ready, it's 5 o'clock. We can go ahead and get started with the work session.
Yep, sounds good. At this time, I'd like to call to order the design review commission work session for November 12th, 2025. This time I turn it over to staff.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. This application is for a 205-unit multiple family development consisting of two 6-story buildings and approximately 4,800 square feet of commercial space. The project consists of 4 existing parcels on the block bounded by Fairview Avenue, Fowler Street, Bond Street, and Hilton Street. There is a residential neighborhood to the north, and there's a variety of commercial uses along Fairview. The property is in the MX3 mixed-use active zone, which focuses on providing transit-oriented development. At the October 8th, 2025 hearing, the Commission approved the project with a future work session to review the mechanical systems and screening, the exterior lighting proposal, and alternative colors for the metal panels. The applicant has provided updated perspective showing the rooftop units. It does appear that the proposed screening around the equipment is an open vision type screen, so the applicant would need to provide some additional information to demonstrate that equipment is screened from view to comply with site-specific condition H. The applicant has also provided lighting plans and elevations as well as renderings depicting the proposed lighting. The applicant is proposing lighting on the exterior walls, the balconies, street lighting, and bollards along the sidewalks. These are the north-facing lighting elevations. Currently, a site-specific condition G requires all exterior lighting to be downward-facing and in compliance with all the lighting requirements in City Code. The work session submittal also included 4 color options for the metal panels. There's the original copper color that was previously proposed, and then a slate gray, a granite, and a champagne color have been included for the Commission's consideration. And with that, the planning team recommends approval, subject to all original conditions of approval, and we can answer any questions or we can have the applicant give their presentation.
Great. Any questions for staff from the Commission at this point?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Stead.
Caitlin, on the lighting, you called out the downward facing. I think I saw on that elevation there's kind of like a wall wash application. Is that permissible, or are we being instructed to request for a revision there?
Chair and Commissioners, the current condition does say all lighting needs to be downward facing. You can allow the upward facing lighting. We do have some requirements in code that it has to fall completely on a building element, so it can't extend past the top of the building.
Okay, thank you. Just for frame of reference, on the new Saratoga buildings, is there some sort of like compliance check as part of the building inspection or something? Like, how does that work? Because they certainly do have some kind of upward pointing cans that personally I think look very nice. But I'm just wondering about the applicability of that code to a light like that.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I believe that was approved under the old code, which did not have very many requirements about upward facing lighting compared to the new code. I think if you did want to approve something like that, you can. It just has to also follow that requirement that there can't be lighting up into the sky.
Thank you for that clarification, Caitlin.
Good. Any other questions? Good. Is the applicant present? If you would state your name and address for the record, please.
Andrew Wheeler, 9201 West State Street, Boise, Idaho, 83714. Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, Caitlin, if you could pull that PDF up that I sent. So what you saw there were our kind of initial rendition, and we have a updated one to show you a little revisions, but a little more dialed in, if you will. Get my clicker together here. So in the initial, this is what we're proposing for that more neutral color scheme. We are definitely open to alternatives. We have a couple things to look through today, so we're not set on one particular thing. We want to produce a good looking project for the city. So that's the overall intent. This is the building A elevation. I do think that, so specifically focused on the metal panels initially, one benefit of going with the more neutral kind of neutral color palette is it really makes those murals pop, and there's a lot of murals. So that is sort of a good dynamic, I think, that maybe got lost with the orange panels that we had before. The intent before was to kind of carry that through the building and not have it be too black and white, if you will. But there's there's benefits to each of those approaches. Just how do I? The arrow's not working on this thing. Is this not maybe batteries or? Oh, did you do that or did I do that? Oh, okay. Well, since we're here, we'll jump to lighting real quick. So this is just the updated ground floor lighting plan, showing those 60-foot on center street lights, the bollard lighting. We'll look at some night renderings here in a minute that'll kind of illustrate what that looks like. But we're providing ample lighting on that ground floor, that pedestrian side. Here's that updated color board here. We did change the white to a little bit more of a creamy white, less bright white. I think that toned it down a little bit, brought it in line with the darkness of the elevations. You can see a little bit of lighting that's uplit on the right side there above the community. So all those windows are amenity spaces. They aren't residential units. So that's one we avoided doing that uplighted areas where we're going to be putting that into the residential units intentionally. Next slide, please. So here's the elevation of building B. This is that east elevation. In the middle there, you can see that kind of browner brick. And the intent there is we're trying to, showcase this as sort of another third building in the mass of this, elongated block. And one potential revision that we could make that we're open to is, maybe we add a different color above the brown brick or something like that. Could add a little bit more of a dynamic there. I mean, I think this works overall, but we're certainly open to that. Next slide, please. Again, this is that same elevation of building A with that more neutral color palette. And next, Caitlin. So this is just the extra elevations, mainly to show the mechanical screening. So I'm going to kind of jump around to each of these issues, but so here's where we're showing the mechanical screening. So it is located in the center of the building. What you saw in those 3D perspectives that Caitlin was showing was about 500 mechanical units. And so we have 200. So we'll look at some axons here that are much more reduced, and they're more in the center of the building. So from a perspective on the ground floor, they're going to be pretty shielded. Again, yeah, same elevation here. Go ahead and click through these next couple, Caitlin, until we get one more, I think. Yeah, so here's, we start to see a little bit more of those kind of daytime lighting plans. It is difficult to see in this graphic. I can appreciate that, but hopefully if you look a little closer, you can see those central located downward directed lighting over the patios. And we do have that upward lighting that is again, only at amenity spaces, or we have that solid brick wall element. So similar graphic here, next slide, and then similar here. So I think, on that far right, I think that's a good use of a uplight to activate that wall and provide a little bit more visual interest. And then similar here on this elevation. And next slide. So that was building A, this is building B. So go ahead and click through this a little bit quicker, Caitlin. I don't know if we need to, they're more of the same, if you will, and we can go back to any of these if you guys would like. Here's a night shot rendering. So kind of showing we added more uplights on that corner, really trying to emphasize the importance of that commercial corner and have that hierarchy there, as well as the ground floor lighting. And so we have the bollard lighting and the street lights. We are proposing a backlit on the Fairview Village sign to have a little bit just, more pop on that rather than uplighting, which is going to create shadows and, not be as visible. Next slide, please. So these are, additional lighting renderings to see what that overall looks like. And from these, we are meeting that intent of downward focused lighting, not trying to have any light pollution out to the adjacent neighbor properties, and being cognizant of the adjacent units as well.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to butt in here. On this rendering and the prior, you've got this uplight shown on, I believe it's probably the stair tower.
Yeah.
And I just want to verify that's not contemplated to be one of the murals, correct?
No. So there's some more aerial imagery renderings that we can look at where those murals are. So The murals are happening on the north side where there's the adjacent to the single family, and that's where that outdoor fitness park is. And then the two stair towers that are internal in between the buildings. That's where those murals are really happening. Most of the stair towers here that have the narrow side focus, which was intentional to like not have that broad wall of no openings. Those do not have murals. So
Okay, thank you.
and next slide, please. So here you can see the same ground floor bollard lighting, really brightening up that pedestrian level. And next slide. So now if we look at some daytime renderings of that more neutral gray panel, and one of the challenges we had with selecting different colors were not going too light. We're now you have the white and then you do a light panel and everything just gets kind of washed out. So I think that was a big driver. We also tried to do the inverse where we did a color on the white and then do a white panel. I wasn't sold on that look. So I thought this was a better approach. Next slide, please. So here you have the brown brick kind of in the middle. We are using that same origami white. So that does have a little bit more of that earthy tone to it versus that bright white, like I mentioned earlier. And so that acts as sort of cohesion throughout the whole project. And as I mentioned, there could be benefit to go into a color above the brown brick only and to kind of, separate the building a little bit more visually if that's necessary. Next slide. And more of the same on this elevation as well. So here you can see a piece of the rendering or the mural on the right. And so again, making that mural more important, I guess, by making the building neutral is the goal here where we're headed with it. Next slide. But as you can see, not every elevation has a mural. So there is you do kind of have those, fairly neutral elevations, whereas before we had that kind of orange panel. And next slide. So again, these are running through those renderings. Keep going, Caitlin, if you would, just kind of, clicking through those. Again, we can come back to anything that we want to take a closer look at. So those are those stair towers in the middle that I was referencing. And keep going if you would, please. And go ahead and keep clicking through there. Yeah, so that's a good perspective because it shows you the overall. A few more, Caitlin, if you don't mind. Yep. So there's a little bit different lighting conditions. Go ahead, go to the next. Okay, so now go ahead and go to the next slide. So here's kind of to go back to show a couple different options of what we were looking at. Here's the orange panel, one that we had previously. And next slide, and one more. So then here's a different color. This was a champagne color, so a little bit not the slate gray. And you can see here we had a combination of the gray on the lower section and then the colored on the upper section. So there's a hybrid in this model. What we're proposing now is keeping them all the same for simplicity and just continuity. Next slide. And so this was a different color as well. And I do have the list of the colors of the manufacturer we're looking at if we want to look at those options. But you can see here there's a conflict of that warm and cool going on. So that's why we went with that slate gray color. Next slide. So then this is the slate gray proposed. And next slide. Go ahead, a few more, Caitlin, if you would. Okay, so here's this is what I'm talking about with the washed outness of that, when those panels kind of don't really, they just get lost in the whiteness of all that. Next slide. Or is that the last slide? That might be. And if you would, I guess pull up that Pat Clad PDF just to give you guys an idea of what we're looking at for the options here. I mean, obviously this isn't the only manufacturer, but a product that. So this is 2 pages, Caitlin. If you could maybe, yeah, this will give you a good idea here, and then go to the second page. That's where most of these are kind of primary colors. And yeah, so here's zoom out to the hair. So on the left, bottom left, we have that copper penny. This looks very saturated on the screen here. Every screen's a little different, but the left is more that shiny type of a panel versus the flat panel on the right. So on the right, you can see the, bone white, which we tried, which gets really washed out. The brown that you kind of get in that upper right color. And I just wanted to show this to illustrate kind of why we went with the slate gray. It just seemed to be the better fit in that more neutral tone. So again, to cover lighting, so we added adequate lighting on the ground floor to make sure we're lighting that up. We're certainly happy to screen any lighting or provide anything on the up lighting that was mentioned earlier. And the mechanical screening, we do provide that. Again, there should have been some 3D ones in that PDF. Was that not in there? If you scroll all the way down. Oh, well, I guess it is not in there, but if you could imagine the first image you saw, but a lot less of them and more in the middle, at the end of the day. So fairly typical for a flat roof multifamily project. And then the color panel for that final item, we're open to correspond and decipher, what's going to be the best fit here and go from there. So stand for questions.
Yeah, can you describe the panel you're using or the screening for the rooftop units, what that material is? And
Yeah, it'll be a metal, open louvered metal. So wind doesn't become an issue as far. So it'll be a screening with, we're talking 1 inch, 2 inch between the louvers there.
Not a perforated,
No, we're not. I mean, typically it becomes a cost issue, going perforated
Yeah.
versus doing a louvered.
so it's only visible through it if you're at the right angle, I guess would be the takeaway.
Yeah, and I mean, unless you're, ground floor, obviously you're not going to see that, from the ground floor perspective, and they're so far inward that it won't be very visible as it is. Yeah, I mean, if you really took some binos to it, another 7-story building, and I mean, you could probably make out some mechanical units in there. But we're happy to, a development agreement or some type of language we need to put in there for how much percentage of screening that is. We're happy to accommodate that as well.
Yeah.
I think at this stage, when we're not in construction documents, there's a lot of ways it could go. So it's we're happy to make that work with whatever we need to do. It's not we want to make you guys happy, make the city happy. It's less of a priority on our end.
Okay. Just for clarification's sake, is there within design guidelines, is there a percent opacity or total opacity standard?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, our code just says that they need to be visually screened. So I think that's open to your interpretation.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes. Ms. Aguilar.
I have a couple comments regarding the screening. I like to see the mechanical equipment fully screened. I guess I don't want to condition this, but I would just recommend to you to do a mock-up, or when you decide on what material to use, just to make sure that it's mostly screened. What I've seen in the city is folks use the perforated panels, which is fine, but they don't have the right transparency level. So if you were to look at, I can't remember the name of the hotel on Front and 13th, it's screened with perforated panels, but it's like nothing's there. You can see right through them and see the equipment. Kind of defeated the whole purpose. So that's I caution you and just recommend that whatever you decide to do there, for me, I like to see it completely screened. I like these renderings so much better than the last go around. I'm going to defer to my colleagues here on the panel regarding the metal panel, whether that color needs to change or not. I personally like the palette that you've chosen here. My only concern that I have is, do you have a night rendering of the view off of Bond Street? So I guess that would be the north elevation?
Yes, I do not think that we have a direct perspective. We do, I, I don't think we do specifically have a night rendering there.
So my concern with the lighting on that,
Potentially, real
oh,
quick,
go ahead.
the lighting plan, if you could pull that up, I think it's page 1 or 2 on that PDF, that might help kind of show
Okay.
you the bollard lighting,
Yeah.
you know, what's going on there.
So the pedestrian level lighting, have zero issue with that. My concern is the lighting on the building at the balconies. When this building's constructed, it's going to be the first of its size on that part of Fairview. And the neighborhood, they're going to see it. And I just want to be mindful to the neighborhood at night that they're going to see this huge, in their mind, this huge building and all the patio lights. And granted, there's going to be the interior lights from the residents are going to see that too. I was just hoping that we could have a little less light on that elevation to be respectful to the neighborhood behind the building. I have zero issue with Fairview and the other 2 streets because they front like commercial uses in Fairview. I like what you did on the corner. It's going to be prominent. But I'll defer to other comments from the architects on this panel. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but that's just my only concern. I just want to be respectful. It'd be kind of cool if the building could quasi disappear at night from the neighborhood view, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I appreciate the comment. If we look at required lighting, I guess patio, right? Each patio would have its own light, typically of what's shown in the other night rendering elevations. And then the only other item would be the podium level, which what we're looking at here, of which again, that screen wall just from fall protection is going to be 42 inches. So bollard lighting, that type of thing from a direct line of sight. Again, it's 12, 15 feet up in the air. That'll be screened from that perspective. We don't propose any other lighting outside of that. I mean, a light by the entry door, the stair, that type of thing.
Right.
And looking at the lighting plan now, I think we should probably add a few more bollard lights at the dog park. So, that type of a use, but.
Yeah, because that's safety. And yeah, I have no issue with the street level.
Okay. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, we don't foresee any other lighting on that north elevation.
I guess, Mr. Chair,
sorry, excuse me. I was just going to say, as I'm looking at this, we will note that because I do see that in that elevation, we're showing that uplighting on that stair tower. That's sort of a wayfinding device also, right? If somebody's trying to find the stair tower, that helps with that. But if that's a concern, we want to kind of darken that up on that north side, we can.
If this were like downtown, I'd have zero comments on any of the lighting whatsoever. I think it's going to be first, and I don't know how fast Fairview is going to redevelop and, see more buildings of this size. And again, I might be overthinking it. And maybe you don't even see it from the neighborhood perspective. If I were standing on Bond or on one of the other streets, it's just for them. It's gonna be new, big, shiny. And I just don't know if there's a better way to just be in terms of the light. I don't want to call it pollution, but just be more respectful to the neighborhood to the north.
sure.
Yep.
I think I would probably agree on a lot of those points. I do agree. This is I think a much more kind of mature color palette in the total composition. I think it's I like what you were trying to do with the colors. I think that
Too much.
it ultimately became a little bit
Yeah,
too much, and I think that having the kind of a gray tone allows for the more earth tone masonry to be a little more accentuated. And I think as far as the patio lights, if there's an option for more of a directional, point it back towards the wall and towards that door, and rather than straight down, I think it'll hide some of that view up to the underside of the balconies.
Mm.
As you know, from the street, you look up, you won't see the can pointing down, but you might see the light against the wall, more like that. I don't know that I'm necessarily inclined to keep the uplights on the stair towers specifically. For one thing, you know, they're just kind of big masonry walls. You know, if you had kind of like a vertical channel running through those with you know, a reveal on that, I think that starts to, you know, there's a little more design concept, you get a little more interest, and I would be more inclined to keep an uplight on it. Would love if you still did that. So would still probably go away from the uplight on those, just because I think, you know, anyone who's using a stair tower already knows where they're going. You're not having guests use the stair tower, right? I think as far as the, you know, the louvered screens on the RTUs, it provided your louvers, you know, go up and out rather than down and out. So you're not looking up parallel to the slant, you're looking perpendicular to it. I think that would be completely opaque from anyone looking at it unless they were looking down at 45 degrees. And you still accomplish that. I would love within the metal panels to kind of keep some of that sheen though. And sorry to backtrack to another topic. You're going with like the eggshell slate gray, and I think the silver is a similar tone, but it introduces just a little bit of variation, and you know, you're not going painted stucco to essentially, you know, powder coated color. You've got, you know, a difference in kind of the sheen levels. I think it kind of helps tie those windows together a little more. Just something to consider.
Commissioner said you're saying to go with more shiny metal at the infill between the windows.
Right, where
Is
you
that-
swapped out the copper,
Mhm.
instead of maybe going, and this is a personal preference. I'm not saying that you need to do this.
Yeah.
I think it's an opportunity, but again, I like the renderings as they are. And you know, we all understand that renderings are tough to capture all of the actual qualities of materials. And so,
Yeah, we can absolutely. I mean, I think the one thought that we had on that were Caitlin, could you pull up a colored elevation again? Maybe a daytime one be best. Some of those, once this pulls up here. Yeah, that should work. Yeah, so we do still have the shiny metal at those end, you know, kind of between those balconies. And so I was trying to like have a contrast there versus the whole thing be the shiny metal. That was the intent. And we could also do both, you know, they could be shiny some and matte, you know, more of a flat look on the other ones where, you know, that could be a way to also pull that shininess or that type of a look throughout the project. So in that case, you'd have the matte at those bordered with shiny metal, right? That'd be the matte infill, and then you do the shiny panel at in between the windows and the other locations, and that could be a bit of a field in the field organization for the general contractor, but we could figure that out.
that's what they get paid for, right?
Yeah, right.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Matt.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think there's a lot of materiality on the facade, and I think one of the unifying elements is the material in between the windows. And so I think switching, if you added another material there and you went with one metallic, one not, I think it would add too many materials, and that one unifying element that kind of pulls everything together, I think that would be lost. I do agree with what you're saying about the area in between the balconies. If that's already a metallic product, putting another metallic product next to it, it'd be similar to the white ephes with a white panel. It's like matching, but not quite, you know? So I do like the slate gray out of all of them. I think the slate gray has a nice contrast. And I like that as probably the best option. And I prefer the flat panel, but that's just me.
Okay. Appreciate the comments.
Yeah, I guess real quick, the balcony lighting, it's on an individual control basis, not on a full building lighting? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with Matt too. I think on the panel piece too, I think your color palette is an improvement. So appreciate that. I would probably lean towards what Ms. Aguilar said. You know, if you had the same slate gray and a solid panel for your screen walls on the roof, that would probably be my preference. You might need to space them just slightly a little farther away from the unit so you get the airflow. But I think a opaque is still our preference when we have it. But otherwise, yeah, appreciate the effort and showing what you did here. I'm a little mixed on the uplighting as well. I guess where uplighting shines and there's a cornice piece or a balcony or something to kind of block to terminate any kind of light spillage feels okay with me. But otherwise, knowing where we're going with the ordinance, I'd rather limit it. But
Mr. Chair, if I
Yeah.
may just make a suggestion on that, just to tighten that up. I don't disagree with what you're saying. And so if we were to omit uplighting everywhere, but then just keep it at that corner, you know, and again, emphasize the importance of that, raise that up in hierarchy over everything else. I mean, I think that would
Okay.
be a good solution.
I'd agree. Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members of the public that wish to testify tonight? Seeing none, I do.
I'm not really sure if it's something that can be brought up.
Words, it's open, but we can certainly hear you. If you would just state your name and address for the record.
Michelle Hassel, 2610 North Weaver Circle. So I do have questions regarding the lift station parking, which I know we've talked about that before. It was part of the code that it's not necessarily a violation of code, but it's not necessarily in code. I do have some questions about the practicality and safety of that when like 41% of the space is provided are that lift station. I don't know if there's been a lot of research done on, since it's going to be the first of its kind in Boise, about maintenance and practical usage and safety when all of that is part of those spaces are required to meet code. So that's probably my only concern at this point that could be brought up now. Design wise, I do agree with the light pollution. I do have some concerns over that because it is a kind of pollution into the neighborhood. So if there was a way to kind of make the building disappear at night, I think that would go a long way to unifying it with the neighborhood and making it less of a sticking point. So
Yep.
That's all I have to say.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, and I guess encourage you to follow up maybe with staff with some more specifics on the parking piece. And I know as these start to develop, as the building departments can be looking at these rather closely as well.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Mr. Stood.
I guess I'm not clear on what the lift station is that's being referenced.
Full cars.
Oh, right. Yeah. Those are not a new technology within multifamily developments. We haven't had them arrive here quite yet. So there's they're proven. It's just new here.
I'm not against the technology. I just want to make sure that is going to make up like 40% of the parking spaces. That's
Yep.
the plan in place to keep it workable and usable and safe.
Yep. Understood. Any other members of the public wishing to testify? You have any online, Josh, tonight? Thank you. Applicant, any last statements or anything you need?
I can make it quick, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I mean, as Commissioner Stead said, they are pretty proven. We've done projects in different states with them. It is new here. We do have a backup generator. So from a life safety standpoint of, being trapped in any way like that, I mean, that is provided in the project already. So our goal is to make it safe as well. As is the manufacturer that supplies that product. So
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Mr. Stood.
not that this has any bearing on what we're talking about, but for my own curiosity, has your manufacturer identified like a local, 24-hour service provider?
So they are out of Salt Lake, and they do have a local rep here that is not on site, but on call.
Like a
there
metal
is a-
shop, kind of whatever mechanical contractor.
Yes, yeah,
Essentially, yeah.
we did have that discussion with them about having somebody here local should there be an issue.
Thank you. Well, with that, we'll close the public portion of the hearing and bring back for the commission for discussion and a motion. There's some good commentary tonight, some question, I think some thoughts on some of the uplighting potentially going away. Overall, I think the applicant did a nice job bringing some materials and some night renderings and some good lighting exhibits. So appreciate that as well as the screening. So again, I still lean towards more of an opaque screen on there, but I think I could be open to as you stated, Mr. Stat, if the louvers are configured the correct way for visual screening, I'd be fine with that too. Other thoughts, or somebody want to take a stab at a motion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not about to go to battle over screen type. I think our preference is clear, and I think that they're, ultimately it's probably more cost effective for them to have a truly opaque screen anyway. So with that standpoint, I do want to kind of reiterate, I think that, some of the stair tower uplights I would omit. I think that the corner on Fairview, those uplights really do accentuate the more urban style, and I think they're very welcome and additive additions to that design. I would keep those, and I agree that the panel colors are an improvement, and I think that opinions expressed by the rest of this board and commission are probably the right ones. So I would move that we approve this work session.
Good. So moved.
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All right. Can the clerk please call the roll?
Marsh,
Aye.
Aguilar,
Aye.
Erstad,
Aye.
Gesrick.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Great. Thank you. Josh, we have a couple work or agenda items you want to go over today?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll just run through the agenda real quick and then give you a few minutes before 6 o'clock. Item number 1, DRH 25-00202 at 12565 West Fairview Avenue for a 6-story multifamily residential building. We will hear that item. Item number 2, DRH 25-00323 Hatch Design Architecture at 1944 West Judith Lane to construct a 4,000 square foot single story office building. That one needs to be deferred due to an inadequate site posting. And we would just recommend the next meeting. So date specific to December 10th. Item number 3, DRH 25-00335, 3206 East Barber Valley Drive for a new 6,400 square foot multi-tenant commercial building. Recommend that one for the consent agenda. Item number 4, DRH 25-00355, 3191 Barber Valley Drive, again for a 5,800 square foot single story commercial building. We would recommend that for the consent agenda. And
Mr. Chair.
finally, DRH 25-00365 at 3150 West Main, new 5-story hotel building. We will hear that item.
Commissioner Stead, your question?
Josh, for my own edification, what was the impact of the zoning code rewrite on the special planning districts or the specific plan districts?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner said virtually nothing. We left those specific plans untouched because they are essentially their own zoning ordinance. So we just rolled them into the new code. Things that apply to all zoning districts would apply to them, but it's really pretty limited.
So like use specific requirements?
Use specific standards are actually in the specific plan itself. So that's all dictated by the specific plan, building setbacks, height. I guess I probably can't really think of much that would apply other than maybe like very administrative things like legal non-conforming status, some of our process pieces that we envisioned, what requires neighborhood meetings. But I think like the specifics of like use, setbacks, building heights, all of that's all dictated in the specific plans.
Is there any path to rezoning those, like on a parcel by parcel basis? Or is that also outlined in the specific plans?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Ersad, you would have to amend the entire specific plan to omit those properties and rezone them to an appropriate district. It would be complicated. You know, certainly if they're interior to the specific plan, it would not make a ton of sense. You would have to have buy off from any sort of CC&R, standpoint. I think it's probably not terribly practical. But possible. I mean, they could go through a rezone process to be removed from the specific plan.
Thank you. Pivoting again to item 2, the single level 4,000 square foot building in MX3. What's the path to compliance with our form-based code on a property like that? Does it just need multiple tenant spaces?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Ersted, yes, it needs to, I believe it can contain multiple tenants and satisfy that requirement. Yeah, I think that's right.
That's all. Thank you.
We can get a firm answer for you before we hear it next month. How's that?
That'd be great.
Okay, all right.
Anything else, guys? If not, we are adjourned for the work session. All right, good evening. This time I'd like to call the November 12th, 2025 Design Review Commission meeting to order. Christina, please call the roll.
Simple.
Here.
Marsh.
Here.
Oh, Simple's here.
Yep.
Marsh.
Here.
Aguilar.
Here.
Erstad.
Here.
Keswick.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. This time, looking for a motion on the design review work session minutes and the design review commission meeting minutes from October 8th, 2025.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Stepp.
I move that we approve the design review work session and commission meeting minutes from October 8th, 2025.
So moved. And seconded. Thank you. Christina, please call the roll.
Simple.
Aye.
Marsh.
Aye.
Aguilar.
Aye.
Erstad.
Aye.
Keswick.
Aye.
All in favor. Motion carries.
We have one item up for deferral tonight. That is item number 2. It's DRH 25-00325. Location is 1944 with West Judith Lane. It's for the construction of a new approximately 4,000 square foot single story office building located on an MX in an MX3 zone. And this item would be deferred to the December 10th hearing. Is there any member of the audience wishing to speak to this item who cannot meet the December 10th date? Seeing none in person, Josh, any online? Okay. And that concludes our items for deferral, and I would be open for a motion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Stad.
I move that we defer item DRH 25-00323 to the December 10th hearing.
Great. Thank you. So moved
Second.
and seconded. Any discussion on a motion? Hearing none. Christina, please call the roll.
Simple.
Aye.
Marsh.
Aye.
Aguilar.
Aye.
Erstad.
Aye.
Keswick.
Aye.
All in favor. Motion carries.
We have a couple items for consideration on our consent agenda. The first item is item number 3. It's DRH 25-00335, locations 3206 East Barber Valley Drive for the construction of a new approximately 6,400 square foot multi-tenant commercial building on a property in an SPO2 zone. Is the applicant present? That the record show the applicant is present. Are you in agreement with recommended conditions of approval? Let the record show that the applicant is in agreement. Are there any members of the public wishing to testify in opposition to this item tonight? Seeing none in person, any online? Seeing none, this item will be moved to consent agenda. The next item to be considered for the consent agenda is item number 4. It's DRH 25-00355. Location is 3195 East Barber Valley Drive. For the construction of a new approximately 5,800 square foot single story commercial building on a property in SPO2 zone. Again, is the applicant present tonight? The record show the applicant is present. Are you in agreement with recommended conditions of approval? Let the record show the applicant is in agreement. Are there any members of the public wishing to testify in opposition to this item tonight? Seeing none in person, none online. This item will also be moved to consent agenda. And that concludes our items to be heard tonight. And I'd be open for a motion for the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Stead.
I move that we approve DRH 25-00335 and DRH 25-00355 on the consent agenda.
So moved. Seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Christina, please call the roll.
Temple,
Aye.
Marsh,
Aye.
Aguilar,
Aye.
Erstad,
Aye.
Gesrick.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Great, thank you. First item to be heard tonight is item number 1. It's DRH 25-00202. Location is 12565 West Fairview Avenue. And with this, I'll turn it over to Catherine. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. The application request is to construct a new 6-story multifamily residential building with 268 residential units, structured parking, and associated site improvements on the subject property in the MX3 zone. This 4.6-acre undeveloped project site is on the west end of the city limit. It is bounded by Fairview Avenue to its north, a cemetery in Euro-urban transition district to its west, a commercial car dealership to its east, and a single-family subdivision in a residential zoning district, the R1C, to its south. Public comments were received stating concerns for the access onto Fairview and internal site circulation, and the frontage landscape buffers and required perimeter buffers, and building elevation modulations, and also street activation. The concerns are also about the materials provided and also the transitions from the adjacent uses. I will address each of the concerns as I present the following project findings. The project will utilize existing approach onto Fairview, located here at the northeast of the project site, which is at the bottom of this diagram here. The access located at the northwest side, which is about here, is the emergency only access. SHD has reviewed the application, and with the conditions stated in their comments, the project proposal will meet SHD's policies and standards. There's no further street improvements at the Fairview intersections required. The project is not requesting any parking reduction. All required parking will be provided through a structured parking as well as some surface parking spaces along the building outline. So let me go back. I also want to mention about the proposed internal driveways. So the vehicular driveway circles the perimeter of the building and terminating at the restricted emergency access. As you can see from the site plan, multiple accesses are provided for the structured parking at the east and west side. In this diagram, it will be the north and south. And then these will allow the vehicles to circle back through the parking area without having to loop back around the entire site when they need to exit. The project's landscaping and amenities are provided at both ground level as well as the podium level. At the ground level, the project provides adequate amount of streetscape buffers with 10 feet of landscape area and 10 feet detached sidewalk, which is required by code. It also provides perimeter buffers between different land uses with the required amount and type of vegetations. Many usable open space and amenities are provided at the podium level courtyard. The provided open space square footage and number of amenities meet the required 30% open space requirement and amenity standards for multifamily development in a site larger than 1 acre in size. The proposed building is at 70 feet in height, which is at the maximum allowed height in MX3 zone. The massing of the building is broken up into 3 structures, enclosing a central podium courtyard. As you can see from the diagram here, the 2 west-facing buildings are 5 stories in height, while the east building is 6-story. Additionally, the building design provides different depths, vertical modulations, and distinctive roof lines, as well as changes in building materials and colors to further break down the massing and providing visual interest to the pedestrian realm. At street level, the building has 155-foot street frontage. 93 feet, which is the 60% of the street frontage, is activated with the uses including leasing offices, residential common spaces, and the mail room. This meets the 60% minimum street activation form standards in MX3. Further, the building also provides attractive foundational plantings, adequate amount of ground floor transparency to complement the elevation design and enhance pedestrian experience. The exterior materials include brick, metal panels, E-face, as well as wood cladding. These materials are commonly used for multi-family projects and have been approved for similar projects in the past. In fact, brick, metal, wood are cited as quality materials in citywide design guidelines. The project is abutting a residential zone and residential uses along its south boundary. The proposed building is located about 81 feet away from the abutting property lines. As you can see the diagram here, it shows the required neighborhood transition in the upper left. And the bottom one is the provided transitions. As you can see, the project has provided more than the required building setback from the single-family uses. In addition, the building design, the elevation as illustrated here in the right-hand side has demonstrated the project has removed all south-facing balconies to respect the single-family home's privacy. Moreover, again, this is a ground-level landscape plan. A 26 feet of landscape buffer is provided along the south, which is here on the screen, with evergreen shrubs and deciduous trees to provide more screening. And also a 9-foot landscape buffer along the west and the east side perimeters, also provided with the required amount of trees to separate the different uses. As such, the site design and building design have provided transitions and will minimize impacts to the adjacent uses. With the preceding analysis, the planning team finds the public concerns have been addressed by the project design. With the recommended condition of approval, the application will comply with Boise zoning code and citywide design guidelines and standards. As such, the planning team moved to approve this application as recommended in the findings of fact, conclusion of law, and the recommended condition of approval noted in the project report. That concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great. Thanks, Catherine. Questions for staff at the moment from the commission? Seeing none. Great. Is the applicant present? You would please state your name and address for the record when you're able.
Hi, good evening. Shellen Rodriguez. I'm with SMR Development. Address is 300 West Main, Boise, Idaho. Thank you for having us this evening. I'm with SMR. I do a lot of multifamily and affordable workforce housing throughout the region and both here in Idaho and elsewhere. My partner and also owner developer of this project, the Pacific Companies, is based out of Eagle, Idaho. They have a longstanding relationship with the city of Boise in doing partnership projects, as well as working on over 300 different multifamily projects in the Western United States. So we're a very experienced team. We're really happy to bring in Ian, our lead architect with Pivot North, who will do the hard work.
Thank you, Shellen. Ian McLaughlin, Pivot North Architects, 116 South 6th Street. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. So let me make sure this works. All right. We're going to give you a little context information. I'm going to try not to be redundant. Catherine did a great job of presenting the project. So just to kind of cover why we think this is a good place for this project. So you see the kind of vertical squiggly line, that's the separation of Meridian, Boise. So we're right on the boundary of Boise city limits. That first circle you see is the quarter mile, and the second circle is the half mile. So you can see there's a lot going on along Fairview. I'm sure all of you are familiar with Fairview in this part of town. So we have the Village, Albertsons, Walmart, restaurants and retail across the street, an adjacent used car lot, subdivision to the south, and multiple cemeteries. The nice thing is there is walkability, I would say, and access to the adjacent park, the Village, Walmart, and really Albertsons. So feel it's an appropriate space for this scale of project. Just zooming in so you can see a little bit more. I point these things out also because to draw from them from the design and gather some sort of context was a bit of a challenge for this project, I will admit. So we're trying to create something that is, we feel like good design, timeless, and is going to fit the neighborhood. Just another aerial view, kind of see what is adjacent to the site. We're also trying to, and I'll point it out on the plans, capture, views towards the foothills, kind of take advantage of the foliage and the tree coverage and the terrace lawn memorial garden to the west. The adjacent site is, I was going to say undeveloped, but it was developed at one time and it was going to be a used car lot. So that's why you can see some of these improvements and curbing along the site. So some internal views to the site as well. Just real quick, touch on some of the city of Boise kind of comprehensive plans. So this is on one of Boise's 3 best-in-class transportation lines. Additionally, it is highlighted as a space for commercial and in the red, and then higher density in the orange. I'll zoom in on that real quick so you can see our site there. So we have the commercial and then the high density to the south. The green is one of the other adjacent cemeteries. Real quick, we think this project aligns with the Blueprint Boise goals. I know we're not here to talk about planning and zoning, but I figured I'd touch on these. So we're an infill site. We're promoting walkability with the adjacent uses, and we're incorporating housing into this community. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk about all this, but I put this in here so we could come back to any of these stats if we wanted to. High level, we're proposing 268 units. We're proposing the exact number of parking that's required, as well as the exact number of bike parking that is required, and we are within that 70-foot height limit. Site plan. So wanted to show this, Catherine kind of touched on this, but the red hatched area that goes around the perimeter of the site, that is the fire apparatus access. So due to the height of the building, we have to have fire apparatus access. The restricted emergency access on the top of the page will be via collapsible bollards or something similar. And then we have the main entry to the site, which provides right in and then right in left out. We met with ACHD on multiple occasions to kind of work through this. We actually had a different version that had that located in a different location, but they were adamant that we use the existing site entry point. So we reworked the design to make that work. This left in and left out, I know there was a concern about that, would provide room for about 4 to 6 cars. So there's room for queuing there. And as Catherine said, there's access through the garage. So you don't have to circle all the way back around the site. So ground level, primarily parking, but we are fronting most of the uses on Fairview. So that orange highlighted line is our 60% of street frontage activation. So we have leasing offices, entry, lobby, mail room, and other kind of community spaces in that area. The green is the bike storage. As you know, with the zoning code, we have to provide 50% of that on the ground floor. So this is probably closer to 75%. And then we have back of house and 3 trash locations around the site. If we go up to the podium level, so on the top of the screen, we have 2 kind of L-shaped structures. Those are 5 stories. And then a longer bar-shaped structure on the we'll call it the plan south side of the sheet, and that's 6 stories. So we've tried to break up the volume around the podium and around that courtyard space so we can gather, like I said, views to the adjacent cemetery. We actually see that more as a green space and as dense tree foliage. There's a view and on the right side, kind of towards Fairview, that you get glimpses of the foothills in downtown. And then kind of breaking up the massing adjacent the single family subdivision to the south on the left side of the screen. So we're primarily a mix of 1 beds, 2 beds, and 3 beds. You can see on that kind of, we'll call it rosy color, we have amenity space that brings you up from the lobby on the right side of the plan. So you can kind of walk up this grand stair, circulate up onto the podium space. And then we have amenity space located centrally. That would be a club room and fitness area. Going up to the 3rd floor, kind of same breakup of mass and breakup of volume. I wanted to highlight that we have those amenity spaces that are double height on that podium. 4th floor plan, so typical floor. 5th floor. So we have a amenity on the right side of the screen, facing out towards Fairview and the foothills. It's a kind of a supplementary club room space. And then you can see that really it's just that east facing volume that's 6 stories. So highlight some views. So this would be the primary entry point into the site. So with the material and the massing of the building, we tried to, as Catherine said, break up the volumes, break up the modulation. We anchored the corners and really the main entry points to the building with brick. And then as you wrap around the building, those volumes are imitated or mimicked with ephes or stucco that draws from that color palette from the brick. And then to break up that top floor, we're using a darker color ephes or stucco, and then accenting it with vertical metal panel. And then you can see kind of along Fairview, we have multiple canopies where we would accent with T&G wood or something warm to kind of give some human scale and some warmth to that street frontage. Dusk view of the Fairview side. So you can see that large storefront kind of left middle of the screen highlights that main entry point. You can see how the brick wraps around on the right side of the screen, the west side. View of the podium. So this is from that amenity space, that double height amenity space. Touch a little bit on landscaping later, but provided kind of multiple spaces on the podium that could be used for picnics, or one of the spaces is sized appropriately for playing beanbags or cornhole if you prefer. The view looking northwest of, so this is kind of the west side of the site looking towards Fairview. We broke down the volume. We have a little kind of 2-story bike room that, bike volume that captures a lot of our bike storage, also provides some bike workstations and stations to wash your bikes. And then we have a pet park area. Materiality. So the primary materials are brick, ephes or stucco, metal panel. And then we do have various points at the garage where we're using CMU block mixed with openings. And at those openings, we're proposing like a vertical composite screen. And this is a view of that south side, or the west side, sorry. Southwest side, southeast side. Confusing myself. I'll try not to speak too long on the elevations because there's a lot of them, but on the top of the screen, we have the north elevation from Fairview. So you can see the modulation and the breakup of that entry. On the bottom of the screen, we have that south elevation. So the 2-story bike storage shop space there. And then you can see kind of on the left side of that elevation, how we've, again, anchoring the corners of the building with brick. These elevations on the east and the west side do get quite long, so I broke those into 2 to kind of show in a larger scale those. So here you can see breaking up the volume once we get past the brick anchoring elements. One thing I haven't touched on is about 40 to 50% of the units will have balconies. One item of feedback we did receive from our neighborhood meeting was to provide privacy to the adjacent subdivisions. So we have not located any balconies on that elevation. And this would be east elevation. So on the top right, you're seeing that main entry off Fairview. And then this is the south side with the bike space. Podium elevations. So we're kind of carrying that same design language onto the podium. Including and locating most of a higher percentage of balconies facing into the podium where we would have a lot of green space. This elevation highlights, this elevation highlights that 2-story amenity volume. So bringing the same design language from Fairview kind of onto the podium level with that amenity space. Catherine touched on this real quick. So we're exceeding the required neighborhood transition by about 40 feet. Trash is taken kind of from 3 locations. So the 3 structures each have a trash room, trash chute, and compactor. The blue highlighted areas are the staging areas. So most of them are adjacent to trash rooms, but one we will have operations kind of roll it out so the trash truck doesn't have to circulate around and use that emergency access, providing a turnaround in the top left corner. Conceptual lighting plan. I won't spend too much time talking about this. We are proposing some light poles within that landscape buffer. I know there's a condition of approval. Speaking with staff, it sounds like there's some flexibility with locating those in those buffers as long as we coordinate where we're putting trees and the tree spacing. Civil site plan. We're proposing a 10-foot detached sidewalk. Quick section of that if we need to come back to it. Most utilities are coming off Fairview. So we have all of our water, fire, irrigation, power. Sewer is off the south side or screen left. And then stormwater is being taken down through the building and through seepage beds. Updated landscape plan. So as Catherine mentioned, we're exceeding the 30%. That's by providing a portion of it on the ground floor and then the majority of it at the podium level. So speaking a little bit to the site-specific conditions of approval, I touched on the light poles and fixtures locating in the landscape planters. Speaking with staff, it sounds like there's some flexibility there. So we will make sure we coordinate those so they don't interfere with plantings and trees. To the second point, 1B, we'll make sure that the lighting complies with that requirement. point 1C, we've removed those trees. Landscape plans have been revised, so that complies well. And then one of the standard conditions approval, we did want to ask for a request that it be revised. So the way it currently reads, it says all amenities, landscaping, fencing, sidewalks, streetlights, sewer, and underground irrigation shall be installed or bonded prior to the issuance of a building permit. We don't see that as being feasible, as we could not build those without a building permit. So we would ask that that be changed to issuance of final certificate of occupancy. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Great, thank you very much. Questions from the commission for the applicants?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Stead.
that last condition seems like boilerplate, but I don't recognize it from past readings. Is that standard for a project like this?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Erstad, that's one of our standard condition of approval.
Because that shows how closely I read these. That does seem to be a bit of a temporal conflict, but we can get into that later.
Other questions for the applicant? Yeah, go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair,
Yeah.
Commissioners, I want to provide some additional information. We've had conversation with the applicant, and we've had other requests by other projects to modify this condition as proposed, and that's acceptable by our planning team.
Thank you, Catherine.
Great, thank you very much. Other members of the public wishing to testify to this item here tonight? Not seeing any in the here in person. Josh, anybody online wishing to testify tonight? Hearing none. Any last questions for the applicant or staff?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Stead.
I don't know if this has been touched on. Is there an affordability component to this? Not that it has any bearing on our design.
I realized when I introduced myself, Commissioner, I may have confused that issue. There's not a formal affordability component at this time for this project. Two things to note. My understanding is your code, the city's code, might be being revised to address differently the current affordability provisions. And so depending on how that ends up getting revised, if at all, we may in fact look at those to see if they make more sense for the programming of this project. At this time, though, we don't know how that code will change, so we can't address it. Secondly, the Pacific Companies does have a commitment to work on the Our Path Home program, which is helping to house folks that have vouchers, deeply subsidized, basically families that are making 30% of the income or less, and they have rental vouchers to use anywhere in the marketplace. So Pacific Companies has historically enabled vouchers in their projects and have, for new projects, have committed to having a handful of units. The exact number is not committed. Units that are set aside, if you will, for those voucher holders, but it's pretty loose, to be honest, at this point. So there's no condition to that extent, nor are we using any of the affordability provisions in the code.
Thank you. Anything else? No, we'll close the public portion of the testimony, bring back to the commission for discussion and a motion. Appreciate the work the applicants put in, some nice graphics, and the application materials are very nice. Appreciate the work with the neighborhood too on removing the balconies. Seems like a pretty quality development. Interested to see if any of the other commission members have any other comments, or somebody was willing to take a motion, put together a motion.
All right, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Stead.
I agree. I think this is a nice composition. I appreciate the discussion and the sensitivity to the neighborhood. I think that the renderings provided, I certainly appreciate them. We didn't get to see too many of those in our packet, and I think they look a lot better than the elevations, which when you're putting three buildings in one, I understand how that can start to look a little bit busy. I still think we see this a lot in a kind of a podium product where we're so concerned about expanses of wall and creating a more pedestrian scale, or at least kind of person scale approach. We start to chunk up buildings and get a little overzealous. I like the overall moves. I like a lot of the interactions between the thicker ephes in sun blocking areas and the thinner ephes above. I think I would lean towards just making a decision on kind of that field area, where it's on the fifth floor, the sixth floor, and not having that be ephes and metal, or just be one or the other. Leaning towards metal, obviously, but I appreciate the VTAC louvers being sized to be the same height as the windows. I think that shows more care than the standard designer developer might show. I think that'll really help with modulation. Although on the ephes there, you do have some very narrow strips. You've called out a lot of reveals on your elevations, and I appreciate that. It seems like you might want a horizontal reveal at the bottom of those corners. You're going to have a lot of cracking on those little interior corners. I would say on the north elevation, and this is a personal preference, so take it with a handful of salt, but I think that it might be a slightly less busy overall composition if that lighter brick with the dark field above just wrapped around that western corner, and it didn't have two different competing masonry styles with the field kind of behind it, and it just became this is the building that is on the corner. We've got plenty of buildings throughout history that have filled a block, and they have pedestrian scale because of the articulation of the windows. And you guys have this nice vertical rhythm that's broken up. You've got these kind of the subset fields with the little groupings of four windows, and I think that helps create a rhythm that makes this more human scaled. I just think it's kind of overboard to do another type. It's not like we're putting four buildings along this frontage, but it's one building, and I think it's a good building, and I think we can lean into that. But again, it's a personal preference. Bags of salt all around.
Yep. Thank you. Other thoughts? Sounds like somebody's ready to make a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I move to approve item DRH 25-00202 with the conditions of approval. I guess, how do we want to address that last item? Are we where do we stand on that?
Josh, can you put a little comment on that, just a motion moment? Is that item 39?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if the commission agrees with staff that it should be changed, go ahead and just include that in your motion to change that standard condition.
Change the standard condition to certificate of occupancy. Okay.
Okay. I motion to approve item DRH 25-00202 and amend condition number 39 to revise it from issuance of permit to issuance of certificate of occupancy.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
You can have it.
Thank you, Ms. Aguilar. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, the clerk, please call the roll.
Temple,
Aye.
Marsh,
Aye.
Aguilar,
Aye.
Erstad.
Aye.
Gesrick.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you very much. All right. Final item to be heard tonight is item number 5. It's DRH 25-00365, location 3150 West Main Street. And with this, I'll turn it over to Caitlin for presentation when you're able.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. This is DRH 25-00365 for a 5-story, 126-room hotel building in an MX5 mixed-use downtown zone. The project is located at 3150 West Main Street, and the hotel is part of a larger mixed-use development for the overall parcel. The hotel is located at the northwest corner of the site. The Commission has previously approved the overall site improvements, the CWI building, the multifamily building, and the retail and parking structure building. The green belt runs along the southwest, and Bernadine Quinn Riverside Park is located to the north of the hotel. The hotel building is an L shape with a covered front entry and drop-off on the east, and an outdoor guest amenity area on the southwest. Along the north and south of the building, there are pedestrian connections to the greenbelt. The building is primarily engineered wood, thermofluted wood slat cladding, and masonry veneer, and approximately 2% is EIFS. The applicant provided some updated drawings and renderings that you received in your late correspondence memo, and that they will also present tonight. And with that, the planning team recommends approval with and including the updated November 6, 2025 drawings. And I can stand for any questions, or we can move to the applicant presentation.
Thanks, Caitlin. Questions for staff at the moment from the Commission? Seeing none. Applicant present? If you would, please state your name and address for the record if you'd like to come forward.
Good evening, Mitch Bushkoff, 2248 Deming Way, Middleton, Wisconsin. So I am the architect for the project, and thank you, Caitlin, for presenting it. So as Caitlin had already mentioned, we're building a hotel that is going to be 126 units right on the green belt of the Whitewater Village area of Boise. We are, I do have updated drawings for you. Do we have a? Yeah, here we go. Yeah, okay, yeah, but we can start with the plan. So really what Caitlin has presented, the only thing that has really changed so much from the floor plan that we're looking at here on the screen really is the patio area. As you enter in through the building off of the main drive under that we're seeing on plan right. Can I point with this? Maybe. That's okay. I think we'll make it through. Yeah, on plan right as you enter in through the building, you're going to really experience a lot of what you'll typically experience at a mid-range hotel, as far as the lobby and the check-in area, and the breakfast room area. And then as you travel further south as a guest, you are going to enter into the unit area and also the back of house area for all the back of house operations for the hotel. We also have some back of house operations a little bit on the south wing that you'll see there. All of that has been reviewed, but what hasn't is the new patio area. The new patio area for this building is really important because, as Caitlin alluded to, we are interfacing with the Greenbelt, which is a very important thoroughfare here in Boise, and we want to make sure we're doing its justice and making sure that we are blending in with the surroundings and providing the proper materials on our building facades and on that patio area to really blend in with the community. We want to make sure that we're keeping it really private for our guests, but also inviting from the Greenbelt. So in order to, do I just hit to go to the next page? Sorry. Yeah, okay. So this is the landscape plan for it. This is the updated landscape plan that has the new patio design on it. Really a nice blend of deciduous trees and also flowering shrubs that are gonna flank both sides of our patio, and really also give a lot of nice light feather to the design composition that we'll take a look at here in a little bit. For the renderings, oh, that went forward. There we go. And then can we switch to the photos for the renderings? Yeah, so this is this is a rendering looking at the front of the building to really showcase the materials that we're using. The materials that we're using for the facade are going to be a blend of cultured stone and white board and batten siding, as well as a little bit of charcoal ephes, and then also a new innovative material that is a metal deck that has a wood grain to it. Hasn't been used a whole lot in terms of on wall products, but we do have a sample of it here for you today because it doesn't read all that well on renderings. So as you can see here, as you can see here, it's going to run vertically, and it's going to be anywhere you see brown on the renderings. We can take a look at the elevations as well. Going to be really striking on the building facade, and when the sun hits it, it's going to provide a lot of nice shadow relief too on between the decks here. So really innovative product, something that you haven't seen a lot. I think it's going to bring a lot of intrigue to an already really pleasant design composition, especially off the Greenbelt. As we'll see on the next, this is the back of the hotel, kind of looking down, standing with an eye. Oh, yep, sorry, apologies. Really nice bird's eye view of from the Greenbelt, 30 feet above, looking down on the patio area, and really gives a nice shot into the back of the hotel as well. One thing we really want to point out, as you can see on the colored elevations and the renderings, this building is really designed with four-sided architecture. What we mean by that is there is not a really any back of the hotel. We've designed every facade with the pedestrian in mind, with the biker in mind, with the Greenbelt in mind, and also as somebody driving a car approaching the front of the hotel in mind. So pretty much everywhere that your eye is striking this building is going to be met with a really pleasant design composition. So can we go back to the elevations? I don't know. The original main packet, Caitlin, please. Thank you. Yeah, so as we can see here, really just looking at the colored elevations of the building really gives you a little bit more of a better idea of what the facades are going to look like. Standing as a pedestrian in the front in this case, this is looking right where we have the porte cochere. So this is the front entrance of the building. So really a really nice blend of stone and engineered wood siding, and then also the metal deck material. One thing you'll notice is that we've tried to keep everything at human scale. So you're going to have that stone kind of meeting at the human scale, giving it a nice wide base, and then really trying to step up the parapet levels, changing up how we how the composition meets the sky. So, and I think we can zoom out here just, and we can go to the next page as well, and you can really see here that what I was kind of talking about with the four-sided architecture, where this building does not take a break in terms of really providing a nice sight line to anybody standing at ground level. Yeah. So with that, I thank you. And we're open for questions.
Great. Questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Ms. Gill.
Are these, for this brand, are these prototypical elevations, or is this a deviation for Boise?
Yeah, sure. They are a deviation in terms of the materials used, but they are approved by the brand, and they are the massing is a little bit different, but it's a really close rendition of what you'd see for the Homewood prototypical brand.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
A quick question. I saw the big dark bands around the windows. What's the trim condition around the guest room windows?
Yeah, we're planning on anodized aluminum windows right now with black trim, probably engineered wood trim at the board and batten, and then an aluminum condition at the panels, at the vertical metal wall panel.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
to kind of rephrase that, how are you dealing with the depth of the vertical panel and the frame of the window? Because obviously that's about 2 inches thick, and your standard engineered wood, whatever it is, I mean, are you building that up, or are you building a frame around it? Like are you just using a J trim piece that's standard to that manufacturer?
Yep. What we've done in the past is we've done, and we could do it here as well, is we provided a piece of brake metal around that allows when the sun strikes it from the side, allows some shadows, and also provides a closure for the metal wall panel as well. Does that answer your question? The aluminum windows are, the sashes are black. The frame is black. So that's going to provide black, and then the trim around it will be some sort of brake metal closure that'll match the window color. That's the plan. So that way when the sun strikes it, it provides some architectural intrigue around the windows.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Matt.
I believe there were 2 different renditions for the grills. What I anticipated, probably the HVAC grills. One looked like it was black, like what's shown on this image, and then there was another one where they were lighter. I think on just the 2D elevations. Could you clarify what the finish will be there?
They'll be black.
Okay.
Question on the material that you have there. How are seams, horizontal seams, when you treated?
Yeah. So these are obviously, as I was talking about, this is an innovative product. There's not a lot of examples of this out right now. This building will be far and away the most that this has been used, but from my understanding, this comes in runs of 20 to 24 feet. When then at the seams, we'll handle it very similarly how you would handle a metal wall panel. If we got to do a control joint at them, or any sort of closure strip at them, that's what we will do. But they're pretty tall, so it's not like you're going to see a seam every 4 feet.
Quick question on the grills. Same thing, I guess, on those. So the grills are going to be for the VTAX there. They'll be set out to this and they'll have similar metal trim piece as the JK.
Correct.
Are those painted to match? It's a little bit hard. They all look like they're black on some of these elevations, but the louver material.
The louver materials,
Yeah.
will be, they'll either be pre-finished or painted to match.
Other questions from commission? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other members of the public wishing to testify to this item tonight? Yes, sir. And if you would, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, David Anderson, and I'm on the board of the Weston Neighborhood Association. So we've been following this project for a while, and definitely want to recognize that both Alquist has listened to our feedback in regards to both the campus building and the parking garage. Seen some really good improvements there in order to soften that garage facade with some commercial space. And then I think a lot more of an innovative look that we see in the CWI campus building. Observation is also the same with the multifamily project, very innovative designs, use of materials. What we've been seeing here tonight is definitely an upgrade from what was originally published for the neighborhood meeting, and I do appreciate that. I think the observation that I'd like to share with everybody is that this parcel is some of the last remaining Boise River frontage, undeveloped frontage. And so that said, I think we were kind of hoping for something maybe a little more provocative. Do recognize that the brand and this product has limitations, of course, that they have to meet. But looking at that and comparing to what's being accomplished with the CWI campus building, it just seems like this is sort of a step down. And just want to offer that feedback for you and your consideration to see if there's an opportunity that this could be more complementary to the rest of the river district that's being proposed. You know, an example would be, I think on that CWI campus building, they have the glass atrium where you can see right through the middle of the building. Seems like there might be an opportunity to do that with the lobby on this space so that there's more of that visual connectivity from the central courtyard of the river district out to the Greenbelt would be an example of that. So that's all we had to say. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other members of the public wishing to testify? Seeing none others in person. Josh, any online? Great. Applicant, do you have any last statements or anything you'd like to say before we close it? Any questions? Any more from the commission before we close it? All right, we'll close the public portion of the testimony, bring it back to the commission for discussion and a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Stead.
I don't think the applicant's been done any favors with the parcel they've been given or the master plan into which they've been slotted, but I don't really see how this building does actually interact with its context. It's got this weird courtyard that's removed from the Greenbelt by 30, 40 feet. And then they put a whole bunch of landscaping between, like, you know, providing a lot of opacity between the Greenbelt and their kind of common space. I think the commentary from the neighborhood is well taken. You know, this is a major opportunity, and I imagine the developer here has multiple flags they work with. It's very unfortunate that Homewood Suites was the one that was ultimately pursued. I think this is this could be a major missed opportunity for the site. I think there are so many ways that you see across the river where you know, hotels, restaurants are directly on the Greenbelt, and they're activating it and they're creating spaces that enliven the Greenbelt. I mean, there's a park directly behind this that is not referenced at all in the site plan or the design. And I mean, when it comes down to the materiality, I think this could go literally anywhere. I mean, this looks like it belongs next to the interstate. It doesn't say this is a downtown building in the capital city's most intense urban zoning. There's really, I don't see a path forward for this. I think it's, you know, it's not very well detailed. I think the materiality is you know, not adequate. I think it's just, I think this should go back to the drawing board. I think there's, you know, the windows are small. The louvers don't relate to anything aside from they lined up the bottom of them. I think we saw in our last project, they took the time to make sure the louvers are the same size as the windows, you know, and it creates a certain continuity. I just think that this is a scrap it and start over.
Other comments from the commission? Matt?
Yeah, I do struggle with the louvers. That was something my eye immediately latched onto that. I think it's helpful that it aligns with the windows. Like I understand that it's trying to draw a similarity to the other openings that are on the facade, but with that large of a louver being that dark, I don't know. I feel like it stands out glaringly on the elevations, and to Commissioner Erstad's point, it doesn't proportion out with the rest of the facade. And I don't know. I don't know. I go back and forth with, and I struggle with this personally too. Like, do you pick the louver that matches the siding, or do you try to match the proportions of the opening? And even right now, I think you nailed it, Commissioner Erstad, just with the proportions of it. I think that could potentially change that if it's proportioned at the same height as the opening. Maybe it actually, even though you're making it larger, it fits in better with the facade potentially. But I do struggle with what materiality those louvers end up taking, you know, if you match the massing or if you match the openings. But I think especially with it being black on a light colored material, they stand out. Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'm also not convinced on the vertical wood look. You know, it's got the very obvious, you know, indentation on there to help with the rigidity. I mean, I understand why it's there mechanically, but it doesn't add to the look here. I mean, this is a soffit material that I don't think should be featured as, you know, one of the primary kind of interest add materials to this palette.
Yeah, I have the same challenge with a lot of the metallic wood sidings. They're so uniform that from a distance they just look like a solid color, where you just really miss that in the natural wood pieces on it. I mean, I think the site again has been challenged a little bit where you have a very suburban application in one of our urban areas. On again, one of the opportunities of interacting with the green belt, and taking advantage of that seems to be a very big missed opportunity. The louvers obviously bother me as well. And I know, you know, the layout, I'm sure those are tucked in the corner, and so the locations of them, but there are opportunities, as we've seen in the past, that those can be integrated and utilized into the design in a more thoughtful way. Yeah, the seams on metal siding and stuff too starts to look unnatural on the wood siding too. So, you know, I don't know that there's enough detail on that for us to be comfortable with how it's moving forward. Overall materiality, I think is fine. Window size, I mean, I think they're actually pretty nice size for most hotels of that size. I didn't have a problem with that. The amenity area in that area, from if it was anywhere else, I think it would be a great spot. But from its interaction between it is, like you said, it's a little odd with this kind of landscape screen between it and the green belt. So yeah, it's challenged, I think, with the site and some of the things that have been presented here tonight.
I agree with the comment on the wood siding, because I think the question brought up a good point of how long those runs of material can be provided, and I think I do agree that material is more appropriate in an accent application where you can use the entire run of material. It starts to look more like more authentically the material that it's for lack of a better word, impersonating. But I think, you know, the large facade, it's a 4-story facade. You're going to have J-trim joints where that siding stops and starts, and I think that starts to add to material being inauthentic. You know what I mean? Just, it doesn't seem natural. I think it'll add an element of being unproportioned to the facade. Not to say I think it's a great material, and I think there's an opportunity to use it elsewhere on the facade. I just don't know that running it 4 stories high is the appropriate use of the material.
Agreed. Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think that, this is a good example of how, a little more intentional with the material use and maybe a little more creativity with the application. We see this, 4 blocks away in a Litec development where they're using, the hardy board and bat, but they're just being really intentional about the spacing of the battens on it, and it makes it a really creative facade. It's dirt cheap, but it's a high design, and I'm not seeing that in this composition. I think there's a lot of opportunity to actually make something that is additive to the green belt instead of just plopping something that belongs anywhere.
Other comments? I guess we have some concerns. Is the commission comfortable with proceeding to a work session with this?
Mr. Chair, I'm not.
You feel like you have enough for grounds for a denial, I guess, from your motion that you could
I mean, Mr. Chair, to be frank, we've got a highly permissive design standard. There's nothing in here that is outright wrong with the building according to the design standard. But this is another case of, Front and 13th, where there's a motel on an urban corner that everyone looks at, and not a single person that I've ever talked to has said a nice thing about it, and it's going to be there for a long time. And I can't, in good conscience, vote to approve this. So to appeal it, whatever, but I move to deny this project.
Was that an official motion, or are you actually
Mr. Chair, I move to deny DRH 25-00365.
So we have a motion. We do need some backing, I think, on the motion for.
I don't think this responds to the context. I think this is an excessively prototypical and under contextual building that relies on brand standards as an excuse for substandard design.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Or
actually, do we have a motion? We don't have a second.
we don't have a second.
We don't have a discussion on a motion yet. Unless you have a question on a motion, or else motion dies.
Question about process. Can that be asked?
Yes.
So I guess the options for work session versus denial and reapplication.
We've also deferred in the past, which gets around renoticing, but essentially takes it back.
Sure. Okay. So you're not repeating processes in that application process. So that would probably be more appropriate. So I guess the option for a work session versus if it was denied, a deferral, moving forward, I guess what advantage or disadvantage?
Denial would require a full new application from scratch, basically. You can't come in with the same application with a modification, where a work session, you're generally okay with maybe the site plan and the form, and they're coming in and making modifications. And a deferral, we could ask for a larger extent of modifications.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So we still have a motion on the floor, no second. Is there any support for the motion? Seeing none, motion dies.
Mr. Chair, I move
Yes.
that we defer DRH 25-00365 to a later date, depending upon update of the project, with strong encouragement to revise massing, revise interaction of public spaces with the green belts to enhance the connection between common area and the green belt, and to clean up and better contextualize massing and materiality.
Okay, so motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Simple?
I think that, do we have to defer to a date specific in order for noticing requirements to not again be required of the applicant? And if so, is the motioner comfortable with a date to try to at least have a deadline for the information that I think is necessary? I agree with a lot of the conversation that's occurred. I think the site plan needs work, but anyway, that's a question, and maybe that's for staff, just to understand the deferral. Thanks.
Mr. Chair, I'd be comfortable setting a date specific to December 10th.
Okay, and if they're not ready at that time, we could defer again to the next. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Simple.
Second.
There was amendment to the motion. Okay, and that was seconded. Is that
I'll
right?
second. Yes.
Second,
and
thank you, Mr. Simple. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Christina, you please call the roll.
Simple,
Aye.
Marsh,
Aye.
Aguilar,
Aye.
Erstad,
No.
Gesrick.
Aye.
4 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carries.
Good. That concludes our items for tonight. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.